Soft rain patters against the window, the sound of a clock ticking in the background. Have you ever loved someone so much that you trusted them blindly? Pause. The sound of slow breathing, a soft, trembling inhale. Imagine giving someone 6 years of your life, believing they were your forever, never questioning their words, their actions, their love. Heartbeat sound starts increasing. Suspense music builds up. And then one day, you find a letter. DY. Text appears on screen. I know you love her, but I also know you love me too. When will you finally leave her for me? A loud bass drop, followed by a deep silence. And just like that, your whole world shatters. The beginning of the story. Lena had always believed in love. She had spent 6 years with Ryan, building a life together. Late-night movie marathons, sleepy morning kisses, whispered I love yous that felt like they would last forever. She never doubted him, not even once. Until that day. The day she found the letter. The ordinary day that led to the unexpected. It was a lazy Sunday afternoon, the kind of day where time moves slowly, warm sunlight spilling through the curtains, the distant hum of cars on the street below. Ryan had gone out for a quick grocery run, leaving Lena alone in their apartment. She had decided to clean up a little, organising the closet, folding old sweaters, sorting through forgotten memories. And then, in the back of the top shelf, she found it, a small, folded letter. A letter with Ryan's name on it. Her heart skipped a beat. Something about it felt wrong. She hesitated. She told herself it was probably nothing. Maybe a bill, an old note, something unimportant. But when she opened it, her breath caught in her throat. D, I miss you. I know you love her, but I also know you love me too. When will you finally leave her for me? Lena's hands shook. Her stomach twisted. The walls around her seemed to close in. Ryan had always told her she was the only one, that she was his forever. But this letter told a different story. The shock that turned to denial. No, this has to be a mistake. Lena's mind raced. Maybe it was an old letter. Maybe it was from before they were together. Maybe it wasn't what it looked like. Her heart wanted to believe that. But the date on the letter, just 3 weeks ago, her stomach dropped. 3 weeks ago, he was still telling her he loved her. 3 weeks ago, they were planning their future. And yet, during that time, he was also loving someone else. The first signs she had missed. Lena thought back to the last few months. Had she missed the signs? She remembered the late nights at work, the missed calls, the way Ryan sometimes seemed distant, distracted, lost in his own thoughts. But every time she asked, he always smiled. Just stressed, baby, you know how work is. And she had believed him. Because why wouldn't she? He had never given her a reason to doubt him. Until now. Now she couldn't unsee the truth. Now she couldn't unread that letter. Now she couldn't ignore the ache in her chest that whispered, you were never the only one. The moment she knew she had to confront him. The sound of the front door unlocking snapped Lena back to reality. Ryan was home. Her hands clenched the letter so tightly her knuckles turned white. Her heart pounded in her ears. He walked in, a bright smile on his face. Hey babe, I got your favourite coffee. Then he saw her, saw the letter in her hand, and in that instant, his smile disappeared, his face went pale. And Lena, she knew. She didn't need to ask. She didn't need an explanation, because the look in his eyes told her everything. He was guilty, and this was just the beginning. The room felt smaller than ever. The air between them was thick with silence. Ryan stood frozen at the doorway, his fingers still curled around the strap of the grocery bag, his knuckles turning white. His eyes were locked onto the letter in Lena's trembling hands. She saw it, that fleeting second of pure panic, before he forced his expression into something calmer. "Lena," his voice was careful, too careful. "Where did you find that?" Not, what is that? TM. Not, I don't know, TM. Know what you, TM, are talking about. TM. No denial, just a simple question that confirmed everything. Lena felt like she had been punched in the stomach. Her throat burned, her chest ached, but she forced the words out anyway. "I found it in our closet, hidden in a box." Ryan exhaled slowly. He set the groceries down on the counter, rubbing the back of his neck. "Lena, listen, But she wasn't going to let him control the narrative. Not this time. DY. The confrontation that changed everything. How long? Lena's voice was cold. Ryan blinked. What? How long have you been seeing her? She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just stood there, staring at the man she had loved for 6 years, demanding the truth. Ryan swallowed hard. She could see the battle playing out in his mind, or lie or confess. Finally, he sighed. "It's not what you think." Lena let out a sharp, bitter laugh. "Oh? So it's not a letter from another woman begging you to leave me for her?" Ryan flinched. That reaction? It told her everything. He had no defense, because the truth was right there in her hands. DYY, the first crack in her reality. "I didn't want to hurt you, Lena." She almost laughed again. "You didn't want to hurt me, then why did you do it?" Ryan took a slow step toward her, hands raised, palms up, like he was trying to calm her down. "Because I was confused." Lena shook her head. "Confused? About what, Ryan? About whether or not you love me?" Silence, a deep, aching silence. And that silence hurt more than any words ever could. DY. The words that broke her. "Ryan." Her voice was almost a whisper now. "Do you love her?" She saw the flicker of hesitation in his eyes. She saw the way his lips parted. Like he wanted to lie, wanted to tell her what she needed to hear. But instead all he said was, "I don't know time to know." Lena felt something inside her crack. 6 years. 6 years of love, of memories, of building a life together, and he didn't even know if he loved her. The pain was unbearable. A love that was never real. "How long, Ryan?" she asked again, her voice shaking now. Ryan looked away. A year. 12 months. 52 weeks. A whole year. Lena had spent the last year believing she was in a happy, committed relationship, while Ryan had spent that same time falling in love with someone else. She felt sick. "Who is she?" Ryan hesitated again. "Lena, does it matter?" That was it. That was the moment she snapped. The breaking point. "Does it matter?" Her voice rose, sharp and filled with pain. "Are you serious right now? You lied to me for a year, Ryan. You let me plan a future with you while you..." Her voice broke. Her hands shook. She had never felt so humiliated in her life. "I gave you everything, and you just..." She couldn't even finish the sentence. Ryan sighed again, rubbing his face. "Lena, I never meant for you to find out this way." Lena laughed bitterly. "Oh, I'm sure you didn't. You probably wanted to keep lying until you finally decided which one of us was better, right?" Ryan said nothing. And that silence, it was louder than any confession, because it meant she was right. DY, the worst part of it all. Lena could have handled the cheating. She could have handled the lies. But the worst part? The worst part was knowing that, even now, he still wasn't choosing her. He didn't fight for her. He didn't beg for forgiveness. He just stood there, waiting for her to walk away, because deep down, he had already moved on. And that was the most painful part of all. DY. The moment she let go, Lena took a deep breath, and for the first time in 6 years, she finally saw him clearly. Not as the man she loved, not as the person she had built a future with, but as a stranger who had wasted her time. I hope she was worth it, Ryan. She set the letter down on the counter, and then, without another word up, she walked away, because for the first time, she was done holding on to a love that was never real. Lena walked out of the apartment, her hands shaking, her mind spinning. But as soon as she stepped outside, reality hit her. Where was she even going? She had spent 6 years building a life with Ryan. Now, in the span of a single night, it was all gone. She didn't have a plan. She didn't even have a suitcase. All she had was the weight of betrayal crushing her chest. Her feet moved on their own. She kept walking and walking until she found herself sitting on a cold park bench, staring at nothing. It was 2 a.m. The world was quiet, except for the storm inside her head. DY, why? The questions that wouldn't stop. How could he? Did I ever really know him? Was it all a lie? The thoughts swirled, louder and louder, until they became unbearable. 6 years. She had given Ryan 6 years of love, patience, loyalty. And the whole time, he had been slowly falling for someone else. Her heart ached. Not just because of the betrayal, but because she hadn't seen it coming. She had been so blind, so stupid. Or maybe, maybe Ryan had just been that good at pretending. DY, yeah. The message that broke her all over again. Lena pulled out her phone. Her fingers hovered over Ryan's contact. A part of her, the broken, desperate part, wanted to call him, wanted to scream, wanted to ask why. But before she could make a decision, her phone buzzed. DY. Unknown number. I'm so sorry. I never meant for you to find out this way. Lena froze. Her breath hitched. Her heart pounded. Who? And then another message. DY. Unknown number. Please, can we talk? A lump formed in Lena's throat. She knew exactly who it was. The other woman. DY, yeah. The decision she never thought she'd make. Lena stared at the screen. Her first instinct? Ignore it. Block the number. Forget everything. But another part of her owl. The part that was tired of being lied to, tired of being in the darker. That part needed answers. Her fingers moved before she could stop herself. DY, Lena, where? The reply came almost instantly. DY. Unknown number. Bluebird Cafe. Tomorrow at 5 p.m. Lena exhaled shakily. She didn't know what she was walking into. But one thing was clear. She was done sitting in the dark. Tomorrow she was going to face the truth, no matter how much it hurt. DY, why? The woman who stole everything. The next evening, Lena stood outside the Bluebird Cafe. Her hands were cold. Her stomach was a mess of nerves. What was she even expecting? An apology? A confession? Would this woman, this stranger, even feel guilty? Or would she just sit there smiling, knowing she had won? Lena hated that thought. She clenched her fists. And then she walked inside. Why? The first look at her rival. She spotted her immediately. The woman was already there, sitting by the window. She was beautiful, blonde, perfectly dressed, not overly flashy, not trying too hard. She looked exactly like the kind of woman men fell for without even trying. And for the first time, Lena felt something she never wanted to feel. Insecurity, like maybe, just maybe, Ryan had left. because she wasn't enough. Lena shook that thought away. This wasn't about being enough. This was about the truth. She took a deep breath. And then she walked up to the table. The woman looked up, her face pale, her eyes filled with something unexpected. Guilt. "Lena," she asked softly. Lena nodded, sitting down. "Start talking." Why? The truth she wasn't ready for. The woman took a deep breath. "My name is Natalie." Lena stayed silent. "I know you probably hate me, and you should, but I swear I never wanted to hurt you." Lena clenched her jaw. "Then why did you—" Natalie swallowed hard. "Because I didn't know about you." Lena froze. "What?" Natalie nodded, her eyes glistening. "I did know know about you, Lena. Not at first. When I met Ryan, he told me he was single." Lena's pulse roared in her ears. "That's not possible." "It is." Natalie sighed. "For the first 6 months, I had no idea he was with you. I only found out when I saw a picture of you two on his phone. I confronted him, and he swore you were just his crazy ex who wouldn't let go." Lena's stomach twisted. "He said what?" Natalie nodded. "He told me you were still obsessed with him, that he had broken up with you, but you kept calling, kept showing up at his place, refusing to move on." Lena felt sick, because it wasn't just cheating. It wasn't just betrayal. Ryan had turned her into the villain. Why? The moment she knew it wasn't over. Lena sat there staring at the table, numb. Everything she thought she knew about Ryan, everything she had believed, it was all a lie. But before she could even process it, Natalie spoke again. "Lena, I need to tell you something else." Lena looked up. Natalie's face was pale. Her hands were trembling. "Ryan, he's not who you think he is." Lena's blood ran cold. "What are you talking about?" Natalie swallowed. "I think Herr Thames dangerous." Lena's heart stopped. "Dangerous? How?" Natalie hesitated, and then she whispered, "I don't think we were the only ones." Lena's breath caught. "What do you mean?" Natalie leaned closer. I think Hamwag TM's done this before, to a lot of women, and I think one of them is missing." Lena's stomach dropped, because this wasn't just a breakup anymore. This wasn't just a betrayal. This was something far, far darker. "I think one of them is missing." Natalie's words hung in the air, heavy and terrifying. Lena felt her heart stop. "What do you mean?" she whispered. Natalie hesitated, her fingers tightening around the coffee cup. "I started digging, Lena. After I found out about you, I wanted to know the truth. I wanted to know how many other women there were." Lena's stomach twisted. "And?" Natalie exhaled shakily. "There were more." Lena froze. "More?" Natalie nodded, her eyes dark with something Lena couldn't quite place. "I found another girl. Her name was Sophie. She dated Ryan before me, and now—" She swallowed hard. "She's gone. The missing piece of the puzzle." Lena shook her head. "Gone? What do you mean, gone?" Natalie looked around, lowering her voice. "No one knows where she is. She vanished a year ago. No social media, no contact with friends or family. Just, disappeared." A cold chill ran down Lena's spine. "And you think Ryan had something to do with it?" Natalie hesitated, then nodded. "I don't have proof. But I know one thing. Sophie was dating Ryan before me, and the last person she was seen with was him." Lena's breath hitched. This wasn't just about cheating anymore. This was something much darker. Why?" the truth in the patterns. Ryan told you I was his crazy ex. Natalie nodded. And before me, he told Sophie the same thing about someone else. Lena's mind raced. How many times had he done this? How many women had believed his lies? And if Sophie was truly gone, what did that mean for them? Die. The warning that came too late. Natalie reached into her purse and pulled out. Lena's fingers trembled as she picked it up. It was a handwritten note. The ink was smudged, rushed, like someone had written it in fear. Diwa, if anything happens to me, it was him. Lena's breath came in short gasps. Her pulse pounded in her ears. This wasn't just suspicion anymore. This was real. Was she next? Lena's hands tightened around the note. Why didn't you go to the police? She asked. Natalie let out a bitter laugh. With what? A note? A hunch? Ryan isn't stupid, Lena. He knows how to cover his tracks. If we don't have proof, no one will believe us. Lena's stomach churned. Because deep down, she knew Natalie was right. Ryan was charming, manipulative, careful, and if he had done something to Sophia, he had gotten away with it. And now? Now he was trying to erase them too. DY had the message that changed everything. Lena was about to speak when her phone buzzed. A new message. DY. Unknown number. You shouldn't have met her, Lena. Her blood ran cold. She stared at the screen. Natalie leaned over, reading the message. Her face went pale. It's him. Lena's hands shook. She looked around the cafe, heart pounding. Was he watching them? Was he here? She didn't know. But one thing was clear. Ryan wasn't done with her. Not yet. DY. The plan to end this. Lena and Natalie rushed outside, looking over their shoulders. He knows we're talking. Natalie's voice was tight with fear. Lena gritted her teeth. Then let's give him something to be afraid of. Natalie frowned. What are you saying? Lena turned to face her, eyes blazing. Saying we stop running, we stop being scared, we find out what really happened to Sophie, and we make sure Ryan never does this again. Natalie hesitated. Then, slowly, she nodded. Okay, let's end this. But neither of them knew that before this was over, someone wasn't going to make it out alive. Lena and Natalie knew one thing. Ryan was watching. He knew they had met. He knew they were talking. And now, he was trying to scare them. But this time, they weren't running. They were fighting back. Natalie took a deep breath. I have an idea. Lena's pulse was still racing from the text message. Tell me. Natalie hesitated, then leaned in. If we can lure him out, make him slip up, we might be able to catch him in a lie. Maybe even get proof. Lena exhaled. It was risky. Ryan was careful. He always had been. But he was also arrogant. If they played this right, they could turn his own game against him. How do we do it? Lena asked. Natalie's eyes were dark with determination. We make him think he's won. DY the trap. Lena texted Ryan back. DY, Lena, I shouldn't have met her. Why? What are you afraid I'll find out? She didn't have to wait long. DY, Ryan, come home, Lena. Let's talk. Home, their apartment, the place that once felt safe, now tainted by his lies. Lena turned to Natalie. He wants me to go back. Natalie clenched her fists. Then that's where we end this. DY, the final confrontation. Lena entered the apartment first. The air was thick, heavy with unspoken truths. Ryan was waiting, his expression unreadable. You shouldn't have met her, Lena. Lena dropped her bag, keeping her voice steady. Why? Because she told me the truth? Ryan sighed, rubbing his temples. She's lying to you. She's obsessed with me. Just like Sophie was? Silence. Ryan's jaw tightened. I told you I don't know where Sophie is. But you were the last one to see her, Lena pushed. Natalie told me everything, Ryan. Sophie disappeared. And now you're trying to make me disappear too. Ryan took a step closer. Lena, you're being paranoid. A shadow moved behind him. Natalie stepped into the room. Ryan stiffened. His gaze flickered between them. You set me up, he muttered. Funny, Lena said. That's exactly what you did to us. Why, the truth comes out. Ryan's calm mask cracked. His eyes darkened. You don't understand, he whispered. Sophie wasn't innocent. Sure. Lena felt a chill. What, Ryan? She knew too much. Silence. Natalie sucked in a breath. Oh my God, you did do something to her. Ryan's lips curled into a cold smile. You think you're so smart, don't you? Lena's heart pounded. She needed to keep him talking. Where is she, Ryan? Ryan took a slow step forward. Why do you care? He murmured. You should be worried about yourself right now. A flicker of movement. Natalie had her phone in her hand. Recording. Ryan saw it too late. His expression shifted from smug to furious. You little dash. Lena grabbed the lamp from the table and swung it. The crash was deafening. Ryan staggered back, dazed. Run! Natalie shouted. They bolted for the door. Ryan recovered fast, his footsteps pounding behind them. But as soon as they reached the street, red and blue lights flashed. Police cars, sirens. Natalie gasped, holding up her phone. I sent the recording while he was talking. They heard everything. Ryan froze. Lena turned to face him. For the first time, she saw fear in his eyes, not because he was guilty, but because he was caught. DYI, the ending that was meant to be. Ryan was arrested that night. A week later, the police found Sophie's remains buried near an abandoned cabin. Lena sat in the courtroom when Ryan was sentenced. Life in prison. No parole. It was over. And yet, as she stepped outside, breathing in the cool night air, she realized, she wasn't the same woman who had found that letter in the closet, that Lena was gone. This Lena, she was stronger. She had survived, and for the first time in 6 years, she was finally free. DYY, the end.